Today, President Biden and Vice President Harris toured the wreckage from Hurricane Helene. Harris spent the day in Georgia, while Biden toured both North Carolina and South Carolina, meeting with local officials and thanking aid workers. Supercharged by climate change, Hurricane Helene traveled 500 miles from Florida to the southern Appalachian Mountains, destroying hundreds of homes, leaving more than 1 million households still without power, and killing 183 people across 6 states. Today, Biden and Harris announced a series of immediate measures to help people impacted by the storm. Biden ordered the Pentagon to deploy up to 1,000 active duty troops to help distribute aid, and he announced one-time payments of $750 from FEMA to assist impacted residents in Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Virginia. The message of these visits was clear. The federal government is here to help, and it is here to stay.
My final point to the residents of this community and the region is that we are here for the long haul. There is the work that we have done together that was the immediate response, preparation for, and then the immediate response after. But there's a lot of work that's going to need to happen over the coming days, weeks, and months.
Days, weeks, and months. Now, in addition to all the other challenges this recovery effort presents, the timing of this storm means that in the middle of all of this, local officials are going to have to make sure people can vote. You might remember a similar situation from back in 2012 when Hurricane Sandy hit the Northeast just weeks before the presidential election. It did not go smoothly.
Election day got off to a chaotic start in communities outside New York City that still don't have power when voters arrived at polling places that were not ready.
It's a disgrace. This whole thing is a disgrace. I've been here 3 times. They finally got machines in. Now the machines are jammed up.
In New Jersey, anyone displaced by the storm could vote by email or fax, an unprecedented move that overwhelmed election offices. Even before that move, critics were warning of voter fraud, and legal experts say all this will very likely land the state of New Jersey in court.
In any election, trying to make sure that people can vote in an area that is still actively recovering from a natural disaster is a challenge. But this is not just any election. This is an election where one of the candidates is actively looking for reasons to claim fraud, to claim that any chaos at all is a sign that the election has been stolen. Hurricane Helene wreaked havoc on 6 states across the Southeast, 2 of which are potentially critical swing states, Georgia and North Carolina. Today, new polling from the Cook Political Report showed that Trump and Harris are statistically tied in Georgia and literally tied in North Carolina. Either state could end up deciding the entire 2024 election, so every vote in those states will really count. In North Carolina, in-person early voting is supposed to start in 15 days. And in Georgia, mail-in ballots are supposed to start going out next Monday. I say supposed to because in North Carolina, the state is unsure which voting sites will still be usable. And in Georgia, the Postal Service has suspended operations at scores of their facilities across the state. So with 34 days before Election Day, how are these local officials going to pull this off? Especially with this guy on the ballot.
Do you trust the process this time around?
I'll let you know in about 33 days.
The scope of devastation caused by Hurricane Helene is still being assessed, but an early estimate suggests that the storm's price tag could reach $34 billion. And some of that damage was to the state's election infrastructure, including reports of flooding at multiple polling sites. In addition to that, damaged roads could make it extremely difficult for mail-in ballots to be collected or sent in. Almost 1 million voters live in the area of North Carolina most impacted by Helene. 1 million voters in a state that Donald Trump won in 2020 by fewer than 80,000 votes. Joining me now to talk about all of this is Anderson Clayton. She's the chair of the North Carolina Democratic Party. Anderson, thank you so much for joining me. First, if you could just tell us what the recovery process is like in your state and how it's going down there.
Well, as people know right now, North Carolina's western part of our state has been ravaged by hurricane devastation, and we are still in an active search and recovery mode right now. Anyone in North Carolina that needs help or assistance can go to readync.gov and be able to see all of the resources that are available to folks that have dealt with flooding devastation or just the collapsing of homes and communities across the western part of the state. We know that folks are still out there needing those help and those resources. We want to make sure that they get out too, but we are really appreciative of Governor Cooper and President Biden and the resources that have been given to North Carolina already. But our hearts are with folks out there in the western part right now.
Yeah, all of our hearts are out there, and the devastation is just it's staggering. I do wonder, because we're thinking about North Carolina preceding Hurricane Helene as such a critical state in the 2024 election. How optimistic are you that local elections officials can get things up and running in time for voters to start voting in a matter of weeks?
We have every confidence in the election process for our state board. Our Board of Elections Director, Karen Brinson-Bell, has actively already called the State Board of Elections together to give emergency relief to the 25 plus counties that have been impacted by the hurricane, and also given discretion to those counties to be able to depict what they need to ask for from the state board in order to be able to get elections proceeding in the right direction. But again, number one effort right now is going to finding and rescuing people in Western North Carolina. There are still remote parts of Western North Carolina that haven't had access and been able to be reached yet because of how hard it is to get into the hollers and places where, to your point, entire roadways have been washed away. Climate change has truly derailed the entire geographical presence right now that's out there in these communities, and what people even in those communities once knew and once traveled. Folks that are familiar with the terrain are actually having problems being able to find folks out there right now. And so we trust that the nonpartisan Board of Elections in our state is going to do everything possible to make sure that folks are voting securely. But our first priority is to make sure that we're finding everybody in North Carolina, because we know that every single person matters right now.
Yeah, of course. The party, this is about human survival. This isn't about party affiliation. I have to ask, though, former President Trump is one to cry fraud even when there isn't any. And when there was a deadly pandemic that resulted in mass death, he had no qualms about trying to weaponize that. And, precautions, measures taken to keep the vote safe and fair and free, and using those measures to cry foul and to say the election was rigged. Are you at all concerned that the dispensations that will have to happen, the special procedures, whatever needs to happen to get these people, the opportunity to exercise their constitutional right to vote, are you worried about that being seen as an opportunity by the Republican on the ticket to cry foul?
Look, we've already seen Donald Trump say that voter fraud exists in North Carolina, but what we know right now is that we have a Board of Elections that's made up of nonpartisan and good people from across the state, that they're interested in just making sure that every single person has access to the polls. And it's our job to make sure that we have got a voter protection effort in the state of North Carolina that anyone can have access to in the state, to make sure that that your vote is the most important thing to us this election cycle. Anybody right now that's impacted in Western North Carolina can go to ncsbe.gov/Helene for help and find out where the best resources for you are going to be with voting in this election cycle this year. But again, the number one priority is making sure that we're finding everybody in the state. Anyone that's missing somebody in North Carolina right now can call 211 in the state and file a missing persons, or also being able to do a wellness check on folks right now too. We know that there are still huge parts of our state that don't have internet access. We don't know what the extent of these damages are going to be for polling locations yet. We're still in an assessment phase in North Carolina, and I trust that our election officials are going to do everything possible to protect that vote this year.
You're doing really important work. Every official in North Carolina is doing really important work to save lives and rebuild ones that have been broken. Anderson Clayton, chair of the North Carolina Democratic Party, thank you so much. We will put up on our site a link to some of the sites that you mentioned where people can go for more information about voting and, of course, for help. Thanks so much for your time tonight.
Thank you.